Welcome back to Ned Conger on YouTube. This episode has to do with a project that I'm working on very hard right now. It was inspired by my friend Jim McCullum, another author from Beeville, Texas. By the way, he's just published his book, The Last Sheriff in Texas. You might want to get a copy. Jim and I were shipmates at the Base Naval de Rota, a U.S. Naval Station, Rota, Spain, back in the 1960s. And Jim knew that my best friend, lifelong friend, was Charlie Moore, who was a famous war correspondent for Time magazine and later New York Times. He knew that Charlie and I disagreed about the war in Vietnam. Charlie and several other journalists, such as David Halberstam and Neil Sheehan, thought even in the early 60s that it was unwinnable. I wasn't aware of how winnable or unwinnable it was until I joined USS Enterprise on Yankee Station in the Tonkin Gulf, South China Sea in 1966. And I operated there on that carrier and then later on smaller carriers on the staff of Commander Carrier Division 7 as his intelligence officer. So I spent 4 years basically bombarding North Vietnam from the Tonkin Gulf. And then after a short stint in New York City on the staff of the 3rd Naval District, I returned to Vietnam, this time on the staff of Commander Naval Forces Vietnam, first as a Force Intelligence Officer, where I managed networks of advisors to the Vietnamese Navy at different bases, and I visited them frequently throughout all of South Vietnam, advising them on how to deal with Viet Cong and on occasion North Vietnamese invasions. So Charlie and I had some discussions about this in Saigon and in Hong Kong, because he later became the bureau chief for the New York Times there. And our conversations were heated. He was very opposed to the war. I was trying to convince him that the war was winnable, but a lot of my information was classified. I couldn't tell him why. But I knew that if we gave the proper support to the South Vietnamese, we actually could win, because we were destroying millions and millions of dollars every day worth of military equipment that the Chinese and the Russians were passing through North Vietnam down to the south. At any rate, this is going to be a play between Charlie and me, and occasionally at the beginning and at the end, I think Jim as well, as he's inspired the play. But it's going to be kind of a rebuttal to Ken Burns' documentary on Vietnam, which I think was too negative and on occasion incorrect. So this is my current project. I'm working very hard on it, and I think it'll be dedicated to all of those 50,000 casualties that we had, that their lives were not wasted. They really helped halt the spread of world communism. Thank you.